I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
And we are live once again, this time for Confessions of a Business Owner. And I have a very, very special guest joining me today who happens to be matchy-matchy. We've absolutely nailed the outfits and background. Mr. James Farren from Revenue Labs. Thank you so much for joining me, dude. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, man. What's up? Feeling really good today. Got a lot of energy. And need to have a great conversation with you and see where it takes us.
Well, it's an exciting day because you get to come in and confess your biggest mistake with me, which I'm really looking forward to. I must admit, I'm getting a lot of enjoyment from getting to speak to different people and hearing what they perceive as their biggest mistake. And I'll use the word perceive there. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about Revenue Labs. Talk a little bit about what this has become.
Yeah, so I mean, look, at Revenue Labs, what we really do is work with people who are selling some sort of transformational coaching type of product that they usually will sell over the phone at some stage, and helping them get off the phone if they're the person on the phone selling at the moment, helping them bring on a salesperson, increase their conversions from their leads, scale up their team, get that running efficiently, so there's just continual sales coming in every day, every week, and making that as easy and seamless as possible so that they can scale and focus on other parts of the business.
I love that little tagline you shared with me before the show as well, helping business owners build and scale their sales team. And I think that sums it up so beautifully. I'm very excited to hear all you're getting about on that front there. So we're going to lead into it. We're going to go dive deep as quick as possible here. So let's talk to the specifics because I'm dying to know this. I don't know the answer. We haven't got any perceived ones from there. James hasn't dropped any hints. But it's time to confess. What's your biggest mistake in business?
I'll tell you what, as I was sort of, when you asked me to come on here and confess my biggest mistake, and as I said to you before the show, it's just like there's so many that add up. And it's like, what one has had the biggest impact on me, the way that I think and who I am as a person. And then as a result, the way I run my business now and the way I do things today. And I think the word that you use of what you perceive as your biggest mistake is so important there, because there could be mistakes that I've made that I'm not even aware of. As you're aware, you don't know what you don't know. But cool. So when I first got started in business, what I did was basically just started picking up the phone and just cold calling tradies out of the yellow pages to sell them websites. And I taught myself how to build a website. Said, I don't need to go get a job. Don't need to go to university. I was 18 at the time. Just pick up the phone and start selling some websites. And great learning, process for me. But, I sucked at sales. I absolutely sucked. It was like my conversion rates were horrific. I was cold calling. I mean, it wasn't a very good business that was ever going to really thrive that much. But one of the things that I really learned by doing that is I started to learn more about marketing, and I found Dan Kennedy's magnetic marketing and all that sort of stuff, and started learning about direct response and stuff. And I put up some lead, some lead type ads on Google AdWords back then to try and attract people. And I started bringing in these leads and I was selling them websites and everything was going pretty well. But then I realized, these guys, as I started to learn more about sales and marketing, these guys don't want websites, they want leads. And so I sort of switched over to that model of selling leads, and everything was going good. And I had some different mentors here and there that I worked with on my sales, which was incredible. I really actually learned how to sell properly. And about the same time, I met Ben Simkin, who runs a mastermind, which is ironically how I met you.
Big shout out to Ben. We're both a huge fan of Ben. Hopefully, of course not hopefully, I'm sure he's listening to this episode intently. So
I'm sure.
Ben, enjoy.
And so I met Ben around this time, and he was getting lots of solicitations from different companies to come and speak about how he does their Facebook advertising. And this was something that he was turning down. He didn't want to go speak at these events. He didn't want to go speak at this stuff. And I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, go take this opportunity. There's lots of money to be made in this area on teaching people how to do this, not just doing it for them. And so he was like, all right, well, I'll do it if you do it with me. So I was like, all right. So we flew down to Sydney and we did, I think it was for the Fortune Institute. and we did like, a day on advertising and lead generation and that sort of stuff, which was really cool. But off the back of that, we both decided, hey, why don't we create programs and teach what we know? And which was a really cool experience. But so I ended up creating this program called the Local Marketing Masterclass, which was teaching people who were just basically selling website stuff, how to generate leads for lead generation and actually sell them lead generation and make a whole lot more money and provide them a whole lot more value at the same time. And one of the things I did was back in that day, I spent a lot of time on, a little toxic part of the world that you would know called the Warrior Forum.
Ooh. Yeah, but this is like, now we're talking very old school internet marketer. I believe the Warrior Forum is still going, but once upon a time, that was the place to be.
Yeah. That place used to buzz, and they had this section. It was called like the offline marketing section, which was for people who were selling like internet services to general businesses. So anyway, what I did was I wrote up a big long post explaining how it was that I was selling lead generation to business owners, because all these guys, none of them were doing lead generation. They were just cold calling, doing what I was doing in the past, just cold calling tradies and stuff to sell them websites. And so I put up this big long post about exactly, how to do lead generation, how it's such a better offer, how people want that more. It's easier to close it. If you bring in the lead from somebody who has come in as a lead, it's easier to convince them that lead generation is good because they're a lead themselves, speaking to you about your services and all this sort of stuff. And the post just went off. It went gangbusters. And I had like a little link at the bottom, like in the signature for a report that I'd written, going into even more detail about it. And so I put up that post, and I started getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subscribers coming in that were requesting that report. And after a while, I thought, okay, cool. I decided I wanted to create this program, and I said, all right, let's do this. And I ran a webinar, and immediately I think I got like 15 or 16 sales off that. No advertising spend, nothing at all. And made some sales, some pre-sales, went and created the program, and everything was hunky-dory. But then this is where I made a really big mistake.
I was going to say, the story starting, I'm like, oh, where's the mistake? This is sounding great. There's a nice progression of learning. You've met some great people along the way. You've actually achieved one of my dreams in having something on the Warrior Forum go gangbusters.
You got some low dreams if that's your dream.
We'll call it a bucket list item, if you will.
Okay, a bucket list item.
But let's dig into it from here, though. So we've risen up and grown really well here. Everything sounds like, as you've said, hunky-dory. What happened next?
So what happened was I made these sales, created this program, serviced those clients, made some money. And because I had been living in a way that I was, pretty comfortable, but I didn't need that much money to live. I had some lead generation clients on that were giving me some good money, and I sold some of this program, which was a big cash windfall. And I got incredibly lazy, and I got incredibly complacent. And over the course of the next 2 years, I literally did the bare minimum, like literally the bare minimum that I could have ever done. And eventually, I stopped paying for my Unbounce account, which is where my landing page was for this report. And, this article was still getting lots and lots of hits on this thing. And I would have people messaging me all the time. I probably were getting up to, at one stage, like 20 to 30 a day. People messaging me saying, dude, your link's broken. Can you send me this report? I really want it. I really want to read what it says. And I was just ignoring them, and I wasn't worrying about it. I was just chilling out. And I just had the worst money habits that you could possibly have. And it came to this stage when I met my partner, Jane, and we wanted to go over to Scotland, but I didn't have the money. And we said, all right, well, let's just put it on credit. I went over there, and, I came back, and, all of a sudden I was like $15,000, $16,000 in debt. And I was like, well, fuck, I really want to get out of this. So, I went back to, this list of all these people that were contributing to this report, and boom, in about the space of a week, I was able to make the money to pay off that trip. But then straight away what happened was I went back to being lazy. And about 6 months later, I really got to this point where I started having a bit of an anxiety attack, where I was looking at myself and saying, what the fuck are you doing? You have had such a big, not many people get these opportunities where they are just having free leads coming in at a rate of like 20 to 30 a day that are really wanting your stuff. Well, these 20 to 30 a day were people that were reaching out to me for this report because the link was broken. And then it's like, how many people weren't reaching out to me? And it was just like, how fucking stupid have I been over the last 2 years to just be making a little sale here and there when I needed it? And I just looked back and I was like, I've just missed out on a huge opportunity because the lead started to die down. That post, which was up there for almost 2 years, constantly in the first 2 pages of this subsection of the forum, started to drift away and the lead stopped coming in. I was like, fuck. And I thought, fuck, you know what, it's time. I want to take advantage of this opportunity now. This opportunity that I've had, where I've had all this attention, all these people that have been seeing my stuff, that have been liking it. I want to take advantage of that now. And so I said, let's write another big post. Let's try and repeat the formula. And so I did that and put it up, and it was a bomb, and it didn't work. And so I tried it a couple more times, and it just wouldn't work. And I couldn't get any traction of any of the stuff that I was posting up, and they weren't liking it or anything like that. And I probably missed out on a few $1 million that I could have built that business into had I have actually applied myself. And so what that big mistake was, that this confession is not what I did, it's what I didn't do. And it's very rare that you get an opportunity like that where you do something and it hits a large amount of traction. And I had that opportunity and I didn't do anything with it.
I can sit here right now and just thinking how many people are listening to this, that their whole ambition is to create that. I know a lot of marketers that strive for that. So there's this must have obviously hit you hard, and it's even made the biggest confession or biggest mistake in missing it.
Well, I've never been able to hit something like that again. And, to the point where you can write one post on a free place and have enough leads coming in off that to be able to easily do over $1 million in sales a year off that. It's like, where the fuck does that ever happen?
I don't think it does anymore. It's very rare. Maybe a Reddit thing every now and again, but I like lightning striking. I would believe it is these days.
Yeah, and so it's just and that's something that still eats at me today, because it's I just can't help but think, where would I be now had I have taken advantage of that opportunity that was in front of me? Instead, I was just being comfortable, had bad mindsets around money, and I just sat back and did the bare minimum. And I look back and it's did I even enjoy that time? No. In fact, a lot of that time I was miserable, and I wouldn't say I was depressed, because I think depression is a very serious thing, but I wasn't happy. And I was borderline miserable, and just going through the days where I'd just be sleeping and eating and sleeping and eating and doing literally the bare minimum in my life for those 2 years. And it's just it hurts. It hurts me so much inside to think that that's what I did for those 2 years, when I had such a huge opportunity to make something big happen for myself.
Well, thank you for your confession, James. That's a big one, dude. I can honestly, I can feel it in what you're saying. There is definitely something where there's a little bit of hurt still there, or it's still eating at you a little bit. But I want to ask, what did you learn from this? What was the takeaway?
Well, the big takeaway for me were a few-fold. So the obvious one is, when you've got an opportunity, fucking take it. If you've got something sitting in front of you that has the potential to be great, take it. Take the opportunity, right? Obviously, there's a lot to say no to opportunities that aren't good. You can't say yes to everything, right? But if you have something in front of you that can really, really make or break you, being aware that they don't come along very often. Those opportunities don't come along very often. And if I want to repeat that, it would take a lot more work to try and repeat it than it was to create it in the first place. And so number one, which I think is obvious, is take advantage of opportunities, James, when they're in front of you. Don't fucking let them pass by. Don't wait a day. Don't wait 5 days. Don't wait a month. Don't wait a year. Implement on them ASAP. Get implementing when you have those opportunities. But the bigger lesson that I learned was really developing my mindset about money, and realizing that if I wanted to hit my goals in life and what I wanted to achieve in my life, I needed to make more money. I wasn't going to hit the goals and things I want to achieve if I didn't make money, and realizing that money is just a symptom of value provided for people. And that if I had have gone out there and provided a lot of value, I could have changed a lot of people's lives, and then my life would have been changed in the first place. So really it was being able to take advantage and work hard when you've got something that's good.
Awesome. I think there's 2 huge lessons in that. Do you find these days I don't want to use the word eager, but you're certainly more open to opportunities like that when you see things now? Are you more likely to kind of grab them by the throat and just go by it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And this sort of brings me into the next things I want to talk about, which was that throughout this whole entire time, going back to the start of the story, I left school, this kid who's, wet behind the ears and really wanted to, just see what he could do, to this point where that had happened. I learned a lot about sales. I'd gone and got mentoring that I needed. I'd gone and worked in other people's companies to do sales for them. I'd done a whole lot of different things and really developed myself as a salesperson. And I sort of said to myself at the end of this, I said, you know what? I want to take advantage of my opportunities. I want to go hard at life now. I'm sick of sitting back and being a passenger in my life. I really want to go hard at it. So I actually got one of the guys who were part of that program that I originally sold off the webinar, one of the guys I brought 2 years earlier, who I'd actually built a pretty good relationship with, and just called him up one day and said, hey, do you want to go into business together? And he said, I don't know. What do you want to do? And I said, dude, I don't know. Let's just rent an office space. Let's just go in there and, we'll just figure out what sort of business we can run. But I need to get out. I need to set a framework for myself and start trying to achieve something. And so we did that.
It's huge. So something I want to look back to in your story is that inherently you recognize that you had this lazy behavior. And I can often look at that even in myself if there's times when I've been very lazy. And I'm very curious in how you use that knowing of yourself today. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example, is for myself, is I know that if I leave myself to a project on my own, it probably won't get done. But when I put other people in to be accountable and things have to be done, it actually helps me. It helps me be accountable to them because I don't want to let other people down. So that's my little secret, is like I hire and put people in. It's like, right, well, I have to get it done now. So have you formed...
I think you're frozen a bit.
Are you there? We'll just repeat that bit really quickly there. I said that when I do projects, I find I have to get people in to be accountable to it because I won't let other people down. Where when it's just on me, then that can go the other way. So have you found that you have put things in place for how you operate now as a business owner because of that knowing in yourself?
Yeah, 100%. And exactly what you're talking about there. I realize that I need to work with other people, because if it's just me and there's nobody else that I'm responsible for, then, I'll just do the bare minimum and I won't get stuff done. And so, now that's why, I went into business with this guy because I wanted somebody to be accountable to. And we said, you know what, we start work at 7 a.m. in the morning at the office, that we went and got. And I had somebody was meeting there at the office at 7 a.m. that I had to go and work with. Now I've got my partner in my business who keeps me accountable. And, my area of skill is in organization and planning my days and stuff like that. That's somewhere that I'm hideous at. And so I recognize that, and I go and find people who can fill that void for me.
Awesome. I had a feeling there'd be something in there because as we, I don't know if you've ever done it like the Myers-Briggs or something like that.
Yeah.
But as we learn more about ourselves, we can learn to almost kind of combat our weaknesses with things like this. So if you're not good on your own, you make sure you're in an environment where you've got other people that can help you out from there.
Yeah. And I think one of the processes that I actually went through was trying to tell myself, and this is before sort of I just around the time when I realized I fucked up and I missed out on this opportunity. I kept saying to myself, dude, if you want to be successful, you've got to do it. You've got to do the work. You've got to do this. I kept trying to convince myself to do it and saying to myself, you can't be this person. You can't be that person. You've got to change who you are. And this was something that I kept on struggling with and I kept on fighting against. And eventually one day, I think I was listening to Tony Robbins' Personal Power. And one of the things he was mentioning in there was that, sometimes if you've got weeds in your garden, you've got to see the weeds and go fucking rip them out. Stop trying to pretend yourself that they're not there. Stop trying to turn the weeds into flowers. If there's weeds in your garden, go rip them out. Ain't a big deal. And I realized, you know what? If this is something that is part of me where I need structure around me, I need to stop trying to change myself to make myself a structured person, and just go and put the structure in place so that I don't have a choice, and stop trying to fight who I am.
That's so awesome. I really like that. I think there's a very powerful lesson for anyone that's listening or watching this show in that in itself. It's like trying to change who you are versus putting things in place so you have to become that person is such a powerful lesson. So I think that's huge. So I want to lean into a little bit more and talk about what you're getting up to today, particularly because I'm very fascinated with your current project. I know I've had many discussions on it from there. But let's talk a little bit now about what you're doing with sales teams and helping business owners scale their sales teams effectively and helping salespeople.
Yeah, awesome. So if I can just preface that before I dive too far into that, which I'm really obviously excited to talk about. and I'll just wrap this up quickly. One of the things I was going to say was, when I went into business with that guy that I was talking about that did my program, I said, I need this structure around me. And I was so keen to take advantage of an opportunity. And I went into business with him, like I said, not having any idea of what business we're going to start. We went into this office and just said, hey, let's start a business. And which was all good and well. And all of a sudden, I was working proper days. I was working really hard and we're getting a lot of stuff done. But one thing I really missed was the business model. And I really fucked that up because I was just so keen to do something. And in the end, I did something that I really wasn't passionate about. It wasn't following my skill sets. I wasn't playing to my strengths, right? And my strengths, as I realized, is, dude, my biggest strengths is sales and getting other people to sell. Like this guy that I was working with in the office, who when he first joined my program, like, the 2.5 years ago, that stage really, couldn't sell, couldn't close a window, right? But
couldn't close a window. That is a golden mine.
But fast forward to us working together, he was a closing powerhouse. This guy could close and close and close, and he could just close almost any situation in any deal because that's what I taught him how to do, and that was a skill set of mine. And I sort of got to the end of this and realized that what my greatest skill set is getting other people to become closers, getting people that have the right raw attributes, the right natural skills to be able to close deals. And I can work with those people. If somebody has the natural talents, and not in saying that they're already a closer, but somebody who's hardworking and is not necessarily an extrovert because I'm an introvert, but somebody who wants to succeed, wants to achieve, and is willing to do what it takes, I can turn that person into an absolute superstar closer. And when I realized at the end of that business that I had with this guy where, we were both closing well, but we weren't passionate about this business. It wasn't something we enjoyed. And I realized that I really enjoy sales. And that's what sort of led me to doing what I'm doing now. Because I was like, you know what? Sales is really where my skill is. That's my talent. That's where I get the best results for people. So why should I focus and try and do all this other stuff that I'm actually not that interested in when I actually love sales?
What's interesting there, and the first thing is we just got a second confession. We just got another mistake looking at it from there of the business model. But isn't it interesting that became the foundation of what you're doing today? So you actually took something massive away from that next mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I'm focusing on the things that I'm actually passionate about, the things that I really enjoy, I really enjoy the work that I do. Whereas in the past, it felt like an effort. I felt like I was really forcing myself. And, I had to convince myself to get up in the morning. I wasn't just getting out of bed because I wanted to, because I enjoyed what I was doing. I had to convince myself, and it's like, oh, well, the other guy's going to be in the office at 7 a.m., so I better go in there. Right now, it's like, I get up and I want to do what I've got to do for the day because it really excites me, and it really feeds me, and it really energizes me. So now what I'm able to do, which is really cool, is work with people who, like I said, who are selling stuff over the phone at the moment, or maybe they've got a small sales team, and help them either turn themselves into a closer or their sales team, and really help them scale that to bring on more sales staff so that they can just be making more money and helping more people.
Yeah, huge. And I think it's really needed. Even personally, I laughed about this the other day. I had someone magically get my phone number. I don't know how they got the number. It wasn't opted in. But I had someone call me who really, I knew straight away they didn't want to actually sell to me. And I got this, I hate to say it, and this is even my confession on this, but I had fun in actually being on the phone. How awkward it was for them to try and move into it. And I just realized that this person clearly hasn't been trained well.
Yeah.
They clearly don't love it either. And how hard and horrible their day must be going through that. So I think it's huge that programs like yours exist in which people can get proper thing to make that so much more enjoyable for them.
Yeah. And I've got a great example of that, of what you're talking about right there, where, somebody's on the phone, they're not enjoying what they're doing, particularly if they don't believe in what they're selling. It just creates a really awkward interaction. You can feel that the other person doesn't really care, and that person's never going to make any sales. So they're not making any money. Their company isn't making any money. The people they're speaking to aren't served. It's a lose-lose-lose situation, right? Nobody's winning. And so, one of my clients at the moment sells a quit smoking service, and where they help people quit smoking, and they've got like a 95% success rate through this hypnosis stuff. Really, really, really powerful service. And the price point's like $500. And one of the sales guys, wasn't closing anywhere near as high as he needed to close. And it was something that was really frustrating me. And I ended up having a conversation with him because he wasn't bringing the energy where he felt like he needed this person to buy. And he didn't want to push people to buy. He didn't want to get people to make a decision on whether or not they wanted to quit. What he wanted to do was basically have people just basically buy like taking an order. Like, hey, do you want this? Yes, I do. Cool, done. Like order taking type thing, not actually sales. And so what the conversation that I ended up having to have with him was like, look, here's what I want you to imagine. Imagine that your father, your grandfather, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, whoever, had died of lung cancer as a result of smoking, and they died probably 15 to 20 years earlier than they should have if they didn't smoke. I want you to really imagine how that would feel if somebody you really loved died as a result of smoking. Now, if that had happened to you, and now you're speaking to a smoker who's coming to you because they want to quit, but you get to the price and they're telling you that they want to quit because they want to see their kids grow up. They want to see their grandkids grow up. They feel like they're out of breath all the time. They just feel unhealthy. It's ruining their energy. It's ruining their relationships. They just don't feel good about themselves. It's having a huge negative effect on their life, and the ultimate negative effect is death. And this person says to you that it's $100 deposit for this product. That I can't afford $100 at the moment. Considering if you could put yourself in this situation where one of your family members had literally died of smoking, how the fuck would you respond to that? Because I know how I'd respond to that. From my side of things, it's like, do you know what? I can tell you fucking right now that $500 is fucking nothing compared to 10 to 15 years of your life. If I had somebody who died like that, my attitude would be, you know what? I can tell you right now that I would give $5 million, $500 million to have that person still around. $500 is fucking nothing. It is nothing. In the grand scheme of things, money comes in, money comes out. But life is finite. And right now, what you're telling me is that you would rather hold on to $100 than 10 years of your life and being able to help people. Now, you've already told me that you actually want to quit smoking. So what's holding you back here, man? And I really had to drill into the salesperson's head that the service you're selling here is life changing. You can literally change their lives and their circle of people they know, their lives. This isn't like a marketing thing where we're talking about some thousands of dollars in their business. We're literally talking about their fucking life. And if you can't get emotional about that and see that it is your job to fucking convince them, and that if you don't convince them to take action right now when they've come to you because they want to quit in the first place, if you can't convince them to get out of their own fears and fucking take action, then all you're doing is letting that person down. You're letting their entire fucking family down. And if you can bring that emotion to the call, you should be closing 80 to 90% of these sales instead of 20 to 30%.
I want to close him right now. Like even I'm sitting there and I'm motivated based on that framing. That's huge, James. So that's just one client in particular there. And I just think that's for anyone that's in sales or done sales to listen to that and the understanding of it, that is coming from the right place. That is absolutely something where you're having a huge impact. That's not, I suppose, old school hard closing. That's a sincere help method. Like that is absolutely brilliant. Now, I've got a confession to make on this call. James is actually the guy who taught me sales way back in the day in the Ben Simkin Mastermind program as well. And it was these types of things that really helped me at that point in my career when I was doing the agency stuff. And good to see you still got it.
Well, I think that one of the things that really affects people in sales is that if you don't believe in your product and you don't see how it actually impacts people, how it creates such a big impact, then you shouldn't be selling it. Hands down. And if you do see that impact that it has, and you do see the effect that it has on people's lives, then there really should be no reason for you feeling queasy about sales, right? Because a lot of people feel queasy because it's like, I don't want to manipulate people. I don't want to pressure people. I don't want to get them to do something they don't want to do. But if you know for a fact that your product or service can really change their life, and you've spent 45 minutes speaking to somebody, finding out about what's happening, what their goals are, what their pain points are, and at that stage, this product will change their lives. It is your responsibility as a decent person to make sure this person doesn't take action, because the main reason they're not going to take action is because of fear, right? Either they don't believe in themselves and they're afraid that they don't have what it takes for whatever the product or service is, or they don't believe in you and they don't believe that you have what it takes. And you need to take that as your responsibility to overcome those two things.
Well, isn't it interesting? Because I'm quite against putting pressure on people myself. I don't think that's a good way to go into life. We don't go into life trying to put pressure on other people. But in that example of the smoking, quit smoking product, it's funny how in that story and recognizing it from it can really help someone have 10 years of their life. It's funny that instinctively I want to put pressure on that person to sell it because it's going to make a difference in their life. Like I really want them to have it.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people don't react or don't do anything until there is pressure. Like if you think, this whole podcast is about, the biggest mistakes we've made, right? Confessions of a business owner. And it wasn't until the pressure was enough for us to realize our mistakes that we can actually change anything that we do. So pressure isn't inherently a bad thing because pressure is what creates change. Nobody changes unless there's pressure, right? Somebody who is getting, morbidly obese will never change until there is some sort of pressure, whether it's themselves or from outside things, that nothing will happen. So pressure isn't inherently bad. Pressure is only bad if you're coming from the wrong place. But, as we said, if this is because you want to save fucking 10 years of someone's life, like if you have a child, a toddler, and you've got a pot of boiling water on the sink, on the stove, and that toddler's reaching up for that boiling water and about to grab it and pull it down, and it's going to go all over her. Your reaction isn't going to be this, you don't, I reckon that you shouldn't grab the water. I don't think you should grab that pot. No, you're going to fucking dive in there, fucking emotional, like get the fuck away from that water and pick that toddler up and make sure that they don't pour that boiling fucking water on themselves. And yeah, you might get a little bit like emotional and the adrenaline's going to be pumping, but that's not because you don't love the child. In fact, it's only because you love the child that you are getting like that in the first place.
So let me ask you something then, James. And then I'm going to say this is my thought, but it's like, I actually think the biggest mistake in sales is not viewing it like that. I really
100%, hands down. That is what causes people to not be able to overcome objections, for example. So, when somebody says they can't afford it or they need to think about it or whatever it is, if you like deep down in who you are as a person, that this is the best fucking thing for them. Then it's not about some, special words that you use or any particular objection handle that you use, because it's not about the words at that stage, because it's just going to come out naturally because you see it as just bullshit. You see it as what they're saying is an excuse, and you see it as that. And then you want to help that person overcome that. And when you see it as an excuse and all of a sudden you have this clarity of what's going on here, that this person is actually afraid, they're making excuses, and if I can help this person overcome those excuses and give them that push that they need, that's going to change everything for them. The words come out naturally. That just happens in a natural way, as opposed to, if you come from the other angle of it where you actually don't give a shit about the person, you don't actually believe in your product, but you just want the sale because you want the commission. And so now that's when you get into that slimy, pushy type of area where nobody feels comfortable because people can just feel that you don't actually give a shit about them, that you're only doing it because you want to close a sale. And that's a pretty disgusting environment to be in, as opposed to when you feel like, fuck, this person really cares about me. It's like my best friend trying to, slap a poison pill that I'm about to accidentally swallow, and he's trying to slap it out of my face. And you can feel that, he's doing that because he cares about me, not because, he wants me to do something that I don't want to do.
Isn't that crazy? And I think it's particularly interesting in what you do. And why I say that is because when you're next to someone, right, you've got body language to read and all these things that allow us to feel a lot more from someone. I mean, even now we're on video with each other, and like even being able to see each other creates more feel. But if you're on a phone call doing a sales call, it's amazing how you can feel that exact thing. You can feel when someone actually doesn't care.
Yeah. 100%. Well, all a sales call is, right? So one of the things I look at is the inner game and the outer game of sales, right? So if you look at a sales call on the phone, all that is a conversation between two minds using audio. So using sounds to communicate. So it's just two brains of mush sitting inside some bodies somewhere that are just making noises at each other, and you're trying to persuade the other person to do the best thing for them. But it is just noise, and that's the only tool that you have. And so at the same time, your body language will affect the noises that you're making. And this is one of the reasons why I get all my sales guys, I want them to be standing up when they're making sales calls. So you're standing up, you've got shoulders back, and you can pace around the room, and you can get some movement going in your body. You're naturally going to have more energy, and you're going to be projecting more energy out into the call. Whereas, if you're sitting down and you sort of slump down a little bit. and you just can't be fucked and you want to be going to sleep. It comes across.
Maybe I need to change the podcast scenario, dude. I might have to start these as standing episodes because I sincerely believe that's true as well. Like, absolutely, that's a big thing in sales and even just in general conversation.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
So I want to segue from here because we're getting to that time where we must wrap the episode up.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to come and hear more from you on this sales stuff or get in touch or see some of your content, where is the best place to come and learn more about what you do?
Awesome. So I got a Facebook group called Phone Sales Secrets and Blunders, only because, I couldn't say fuck ups in the title with Facebook and still be able to advertise and whatnot. So Phone Sales Secrets and Blunders. And in there, I share some of my biggest sales fuck-ups, and some, which is ironic considering the podcast. But I share some of my biggest sales fuck-ups and the biggest lessons that I've learned in sales. So it could be about overcoming specific types of objections and the different attitudes you can take towards them. I've had one guy just put up just recently about proposals. So I'm going to be reviewing his proposals today and putting that video up into the group to show him how he can actually create a proposal that sells, that makes people desire what he's offering. People can ask any sort of questions on sales that they want, and I'm in there to be able to help them.
Dude, that's amazing. Now, just to make it clear, that's a free Facebook group people can join, and they're going to be able to get access to a whole bunch of stuff that you do and content that you're producing.
Yes, exactly. 100% free. They're welcome to post questions in there. I can guarantee them that I will be answering their questions. If they post any questions in there, I'll be answering it as thoroughly as I can be.
Awesome. And I'll make sure there is a link below wherever you're watching this episode. So please check the description or notes or under the YouTube video, and we'll make sure we link up. So if you do want to come and check this stuff out, I highly encourage you to. I'm actually in that group, and I've been very, very fortunate to see some of these breakdowns and ways. You know what fascinates me the most? It's the way you approach it and think about it. And even in what we've spoken about so far, I just think it's so different than what's being taught in general sales. Like most of the stuff I read, I tend to kind of lean towards your way of thinking because it's so much more authentic than a lot of the stuff we see out there.
So what do you think the biggest difference is there?
Well, I think when we work with people, we naturally resonate with people. And for whatever reason, when I came across your stuff, it's like it made sense to me. Like it really made sense, and it felt right for me to be using this stuff in a sales environment. So that kind of got me to lead in from there. But even then is like, I've read a lot of sales books. I've done even different courses and things like that. And I don't know, it just felt like it was coming from a different place that necessarily didn't get me the result I was going for. So when something's working, I always say, let's not try and reinvent the wheel. It just kind of seemed to be that was the area that was going to work for me. So following you in that stage, it sincerely helped me in the agency stage of my career. So I probably owe you a massive thank you on that one there. And that's why I was so excited to have you on the podcast, because I think more people need to know about your stuff, James.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm happy to come on. I want to share my message of sales, and I think it can make a huge difference in people's lives and in their companies, and particularly when they're hiring salespeople, because eventually if you want to grow and scale your company, you've got to be able to get off the phone and you bring on salespeople. And a lot of the time business owners can sell their own products or services because they are passionate about them and they do believe in them and it is their own company, but you bring on salespeople and it's a completely different thing. Now you've got an actual person to manage. It's like having a baby. You've got this person around, this little thing that you've got to manage and take care of. And so I want to make that as easy and as simple as possible for people by helping them train those people and turn them into superstars so that they can focus on the other areas of their business. And I think that's the incredibly powerful thing.
Well, I tell you what, I think you've just agreed to come and do a second episode at one point. But that thing you just said there, because we've actually, Kim, the regular host on this show, has said the same thing, is he always finds it really fascinating that he can beat his sales team in one day when they have a whole week. And it's a very, very common thing. And even what you hinted at into there, the business owner being able to sell it really well, but how do you get that team involved? So I think what I'm going to hold you to here is that might be the next podcast episode. That might be what we dig into specifically.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. Well, we'll schedule that in for another day, but we're going to wrap it up for this episode here. Thank you so much for joining me, James. Is there anything you would like to say as a final words to the people who are listening to this episode?
No, that's. I think that wraps it up good. Thanks for listening. I hope that there's something you can take away from this, from my mistakes that you can learn from and say, maybe there's something you can improve in the way you're doing things. And that's what it's all about. It's helping people improve and get value.
So this has been James Farren's biggest confessions or biggest mistakes he's made from there and what he has learned from them. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Please make sure you subscribe or click the link so you can get the next notifications of when we do this again. Thanks, guys. That's it for this one.